انتصار الأحمر بيان الواقع محمد علي Amani al-Afghan, Wasim Yahya crushed under the rubble on Christmas Eve, alongside little Hannah, Hussan and Lee, aged 8, 6 and 5 years old.
But if need be, those F-16s, we're going to get them now from different countries, from all
and for diplomatic intervention to take place, a call that could protect the children today. Let us advocate for a world where international laws are not...
Shalom Aleichem, everyone. I feel like I've said this every single time I have spoken at every event, every rally, but the violence that we see unfolding in front of us is absolutely incomprehensible. It's been incomprehensible since October 7th, and it is incomprehensible today as we see the closing of this year. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a journalist, I'm just a person who is, again, unbelievably tired at seeing a violent ethno-nationalist regime co-opting the sacred symbols of my people to enact horrific, absolutely unimaginable violence, to see things like a Chabad house being instituted in Gaza, to see things like a combat knife being used as a yard to touch the Torah are unbelievably insulting. People who, for thousands of years, we peacefully shared the land with. I don't observe Christmas, I'm Jewish, but I can stand here and say that the land of Israel-Palestine is just as important to Muslims, to Christians, to Samaritans, to Druze, to Yazidis, as it is to Jewish people. And it is incomprehensible to me that we still cannot, in this country, call for a ceasefire, call for a peaceful resolution to the unimaginable violence that we are seeing happening every single day, to call upon our communal institutions, not just as Jewish people, but also as healthcare workers, as journalists, as people employed in the private sector, to ask for the bare minimum, which is an end to indiscriminate killing. We are not asking for a miracle.
Even his doctor said that he had never seen burnt to the bone like this before. The little boy's name was Louay Sarhem, and he was 3 years old. And he was alone in the world because his parents and close family members were all killed. Everyone was convinced that he would die that night, even his doctor. Yet, despite the unimaginable pain, he somehow beat the odds and he stayed alive. It was a complex process to get him evacuated for urgent medical care. But finally it happened. When I heard he made it out of Gaza, I cried tears of joy. I'd not been able to stop thinking about Louay since I first saw him, and was desperate in my hopes for him to get the care that he so urgently needed. But on Christmas Day, my hopes were destroyed. I got the news that Louay had died. Since then, I haven't been able to stop thinking about him or crying. And to also know how much he suffered for the last weeks of his young life in indescribable pain, fully awake and fully aware, with little medical pain relief available to him when he was still stranded in Gaza. Had he lived, he would have faced years of pain, surgeries and procedures. So part of me knows that, well, at least he's not going to have to go through that now. But most of me is devastated. His short life and death are tragic beyond words. And even more tragic is knowing this has been and will be the story of thousands of children in Gaza. Many of them will die while waiting too long to be medically evacuated. Children destined to die from burns, severe injuries, or trapped under the rubble, where they will slowly suffocate to death in hours or days. And all of these children will remain unnamed and unknown. His tiny body was draped in a Palestinian flag right before he was lowered into a grave in Qatar, hundreds of miles away from his home and away from those who would have loved him in life. But do not turn away from Louay's story. He and all the other children like him deserve for the world to know they existed. They deserve for their stories to be known and for their names to be remembered. And more than anything, like all children, these children have a right to not be dead and to not be injured. Thank you.
My final message, and this is not directed at you because you are here, but the silent majority that are sitting behind the TVs, that are sitting watching the news, that are feeling sorry for the people of Gaza, but don't have the courage to speak up, to go and speak to their colleagues, to attend these marches, to attend these vigils, to give money to charity, to help the people in Gaza. Shame on you. Shame on every single one of you, because you have seen children being decimated. You have seen mutilated bodies. The story of Louay, the story of these women giving birth in shelters. What more do you need to stand up? To stand up and have some courage, some humanity, to stop worrying about your job and to have some courage, because that is what is needed. There are many of us. There are large numbers of us. We are safe in our numbers. Whether we have been attacked or threatened at work or in our homes or in our places of worship, there are plenty of us that understand that this is a basic humanitarian crisis. This is a genocide. This is a Holocaust of 2023. Because that is the reality. 72 members of one person's family, Dr. Mus'ab Nasser, were killed in one airstrike. Mus'ab Nasser is a friend of mine. He is the chief executive of a large US organization, a charity that is sending people to Gaza on a weekly basis and is sending them in now. His family were targeted. 4 generations wiped out with one airstrike. How is that different to Auschwitz? That is exactly the same sort of killing that we are seeing here. My other messages for that same silent majority and for all of you that are here, we have stood in the streets, we have gone on marches, we have called for our government, our impotent government, our impotent leaders to call for a ceasefire, to have some humanity. But yet, when they call for a ceasefire, they are still arming the same Israeli occupation forces that are killing the children and the women of Gaza. So my message is, think about where you put your money. Think about boycotts, about sanctions, about divestment. Because it's not anti-Semitic to call for a boycott of a psychopathic terrorist state that is bombing the hell out of Gazans. So please think about where your money goes. Talk to people at work. Talk to your colleagues. Tell them about the children of Gaza. Tell them about the open air concentration camp that Gaza is. So that is my message. Thank you so much for being here. I think we had an amazing array of speakers tonight. People from across the spectrum. Christians, Jews, Muslims, people of all colors, ethnicities. And that is our message. We are all human. We're all one part of humanity. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, when you kill one person, the whole of humanity is killed. When you are perpetrating murder on a single human being, it is like you have killed the whole of humanity. So imagine the state that has killed 30,000 people in the state of 8 weeks. That is lifetimes of humanity. That is generations of humanity that they have wiped out. But we will not forget. And I hope that our leaders will not forget, and our children will not forget. Thank you so much.